If you did or did not know, the GoodReads Choice Award nominees recently came out. And by recently, I honestly think it's been like a week, maybe 2 at the time of recording this. I skimmed through all the nominees, and to be so totally fair with y'all, I was absolutely disappointed with thrillers. And if you don't know, thrillers are my bread and butter. I love thrillers. I love mystery thrillers so much. When a certain author appears in the nominees 3 times, I think we have a problem. However, with that noted, there was another genre that caught my eye. I was so excited when I opened up the horror nominees. I was like, oh my god, banger, banger, banger. These all look like absolute bangers. And I have read one of the books from the nominees, and that book was Bat Eater by Kylie Lee Baker. I was about to say Bat Eater by Cora Zhang. Cora Zhang is the character. This book was absolutely amazing. If you know anything about me, you know that ghosts aren't my usual cup of tea, but I feel like they were done very well in this book. And also, there was just so many creepy elements. There was this one scene where Cora was all alone in like this secluded, damp area, and I was just like, oh, I feel this. I feel this in my bones. It was so good. And if you don't know what Bat Eater is about, it is about a woman, Cora, who watched her sister be murdered. And the way her sister was murdered is she was pushed in front of an oncoming train in the New York subway system by a man who may or may not have whispered Bat Eater as he was doing it. This was during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic and shutdown, so I highly encourage y'all to check out Bat Eater and Other Names for Cora Zhang by Kylie Lee Baker. But let's talk about some of the nominees. So we have a couple here. These are all the ones that I was able to get my hands on. I don't know how long it's going to take me to read through these, so I don't know if we're going to be able to get through all of them, but I will definitely be prioritizing the ones that catch my eye the most. First, we have You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White, Witchcraft for Wayward Girls by Grady Hendrix. I'm not gonna lie, I've only read one other Grady Hendrix book, which was My Best Friend's Exorcism, which actually seems to be a lot of people's favorite Grady Hendrix, but I didn't like it. I'm close to saying I hated it, so I'm not sure if I'm gonna like this one, but we'll see. Breathe In, Bleed Out by Brian McCauley. This cover is just... I love the old school horror slasher vibes on this cover. Lucky Day by Chuck Tingle. I recently read Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle. Absolutely love it. So I'm intrigued to see where things go in Lucky Days, because one fun thing about Bury Your Gaze is it had a little Easter egg linking back to Camp Damascus, which I believe was his first full-length novel outside of the erotica arena. The Lamb by Lucy Rose. When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I love how Nat Cassidy books are always so unique in their shape and size. I know for some people that might drive them absolutely crazy, but one of my favorite things when it comes to books is when they're unique and they look different. Like, I love a little square book, love square books. I love this more like indie paperback, larger print here. I know Mary is a very interesting size as well, so I don't know, I just love the size proportions of Nat Cassidy books, so I might just need to buy this because of how much the book, like the physical book itself, speaks to me. What Hunger by Catherine Dang. Coffin Moon by Keith Rosen. I believe this is an indigenous vampire story on Libby. I might start with this book because I literally have to return it in 2 days, and that is Blood on Her Tongue by Joanna Van Veen. And then I also, on my holds, they're on my hold, so I don't know if I'll be able to actually get them in time. Hungerstone by Kat Dunn. The Haunting of Payne's Hollow by Kelly Armstrong. Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. And The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. So that's what we are potentially going to read, but obviously I'm going to prioritize the books that I physically have on hand, as well as Blood on Her Tongue, which I think I'm actually going to start today so that I can consume it before my copy of it expires and it automatically gets sent back. Let's crack into some books, shall we? Okay, so I was actually able to renew Blood on Her Tongue. I was actually surprised I was able to renew the audiobook, but with that noted, I'm still going to delve into it because I'm going to listen to it while I'm working on some projects for work. I wanted to make that note because I'm so excited to read You Weren't Meant to Be Human, but I only have the physical copy of this. So we're still going to do Blood on Her Tongue first, but this right afterwards. Right afterwards, we are delving into this book. I'm way too excited to read this book. Anyways, let's go hit the play button on Blood on Her Tongue. I am not very far into Blood on Her Tongue. I'm like halfway through chapter 3 right now. This is a book where you need a physical copy of it. I'm holding on to the storyline by a thread here. Mostly because like there's a lot of characters. There's so many names getting thrown around right now where I'm like, who is Tom, Dick, and Larry? That's my biggest complaint right now, is it feels like there's a lot of character names because I'm only listening to the audiobook. There might not actually be a lot of character names, but it feels like it. There was this one sequence of words that were strung together, and obviously I don't have a physical copy, so I don't have it word for word, but it was like sucking. It was something about like sucking. Someone bit someone, and like the visceral reaction I had to how it was being described of them like doing that to the person. Oh, I know shit's gonna get crazy. And just like the visceral reaction I had to like that description alone, I was like, oh my god, I think we're in for a wild ride. So I just finished chapter 5 on Blood on Her Tongue, and I wanted to make a statement about my findings of this book. By this point, it's pretty obvious, but I didn't want to say these findings and then it be clearly listed in the synopsis that this is what this book is about. And I realized we had never actually read the full synopsis for this book. So, with that noted, I'm in your blood and you are in mine. The Netherlands, 1887. Lucy's twin sister Sarah is unwell. She refuses to eat, mumbles nonsensically, and is increasingly obsessed with a centuries-old corpse recently discovered on her husband's grand estate. The doctor has diagnosed her with temporary insanity caused by a fever of the brain. To protect her twin sister from a terrible fate in a lunatic asylum, Lucy must unravel the mysteries surrounding her sister's condition. But it's clear her twin is hiding something. Then again, Lucy is harboring secrets of her own. The worst happens. Sarah's behavior takes a turn for the strange. She becomes angry and hungry. Lucy soon comes to suspect that something is trying to possess her beloved sister. Or is it madness? As Sarah changes before her very eyes, Lucy must reckon with the dark, monstrous truth, or risk losing her forever. Okay, so this kind of sort of a little alludes to it. Also, I guess, like, the name of the book alludes to it, but I am 99.9% certain that this book is about vampires. And the corpse that was found on Sarah's husband's estate, crazy. And then also there was this really fascinating description about Sarah's husband where he has 2 extra teeth that like grew in behind his, like, I'm assuming these 2 teeth, and it was explained that like they grew in behind but they were also sharp and pointy. And then Lucy went on this weird like thought process of, ooh, I bet all their kisses have been touched with blood, and she's like, I would like that. And then she like just masturbated to the idea of him having his way with her. And when I say him, I mean Sarah's husband, Mikhail, having his way with Lucy, her twin sister, in the bog. She's like, yeah, I'd really like if he did that to me in this dirty, dark place. I think it's something along the words of what was said. I might buy my own physical copy of this because I just want to like underline all of this, like the sinister ways things are being worded, because it's so evocative. Like I can see all of this in my brain, and a part of me is like, I hate that I can see all of this in my brain, but I also love that I can see all this in my brain. I think it's showing the signs of a good storyteller, if you know what I mean. But I'm just intrigued to see where this story is going, because Lucy is very much like trying to take care of her sister Sarah. She loves her dearly, but also I'm like, why are you like fantasizing about your sister's husband? And then the husband said something really weird about like, they have a pet dog and Lucy was petting the dog. And he was just like, yes, who wouldn't want to be stroked? Just like, this whole book is very like sinisterly sexual. It's interesting. I am legit about to buy a little shelf so I can like set you guys somewhere. Maybe that's right in front of my monitor. But like a little shelf right here, that would be perfect. Then I'm not sitting here like having to awkwardly hold you guys all the time because I am holding you right now. Are we cozy? I feel like after every single chapter, I'm only 7 chapters in. I'm about to start chapter 8. And I feel like after every single chapter, I just need to like stop and decompress and just like, because it's a lot. It's a lot, but it's not a lot all at the same time. I don't know how to explain this experience I am having, but it's an experience for sure. And I really wish, oh my God, I really wish I had a physical copy right now, because I just want to like be taking all the notes and doing all the highlighting and scribbles in this book right now. But yeah, I actually really do think I want to get like a little shelf for you guys. Just right here. I think that'd be perfect. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I thought this hairstyle was going to be pretty cheesy, but I'm actually digging it. I didn't hop on here to talk about my hair. I hopped on here to talk about Blood on Her Tongue. Wow, y'all, this book is getting wild. I don't know if I like it, though. It's just, like, wild. Have you guys ever consumed media where you're like, wow, that was a crazy ride, but did I actually like it? That's how I'm feeling about Blood on Her Tongue. We're 35% into Blood on Her Tongue. I'm currently in reading sprints with Gavin, Steph, and Jade. A part of me doesn't want to keep reading this until I have the physical copy, but then another part of me is like, I may as well listen to it / read it while I have sprints available. Oh, stop reminding us. It reminds me of Aeon Flux with the bug on the eyeball. Oh my God, that's so gross. Ew! Look at this cuteness while I suffer. Do I need the Home Alone soundtrack? Look at it. It looks like little peppermints. How much do I have left in this chapter? 2 minutes left. Interesting. Okay, so this book, it's not gruesome. It's just gross. All the descriptions so far have given me visceral reactions, but in the sense of like, you know? We are officially into part 3 now. Oh, I also got the book today. And it's kind of a bummer because also, I'm about to tell you why, but let me show you where part 3 is. Okay, so this is where part 3 starts. And the chapter right before part 3 is where things start to go downhill. Because now we've kind of like confirmed what's actually going on. It's not all this moody, mysterious assumptions being made about the situation with Sarah. Lucy has finally confronted the situation, and now that we know what's going on, it's kind of gotten boring. Boring, not the right word. It's weird now because I don't know, the great part about the first 2 parts of the book was that it was all like speculation. It was all just humming and hawing over what the possibilities are. And now we know what the possibilities are. And it's just not as fun, you know? We don't truly know what's going on, but we have far better understanding of what's going on. I don't know. A part of me wants to spoil. Here's the thing. When I do book reviews, I never am intentionally spoiling books unless I flat out say, I'm going to spoil this book. But at the same time, to be giving honest reviews, what's the point of me just being like humming and hawing over the actual plot line, you know? So I'm still contemplating on whether or not I want to do book reviews where I have spoilers, like full on, I'm just spoiling the whole plot line for you. But let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about that, because I don't know, I feel like some people are totally fine with like honestly, if I have zero intention of ever reading a book, I love spoilers. Tell me all the hot goss. Tell me who did what, where, how, why, all the characters. Tell me why it was excellent. Tell me why it sucked. Tell me why you DNF'd. Especially tell me why you DNF'd it, okay? Like, I want to know everything when it comes to books I don't like. But the funny thing is, for me, even when I'm watching people who review books and I know that they never really spoil books, I will still skip any reaction they have to a book that I have on my list. It's so funny because literally the other day, I was rewatching a video because I'm just kind of like in the phase where like, okay, I'm all caught up. Let me just start rewatching because you're my like comfort booktuber. I remember starting this video, but there were 2 back-to-back books in that video. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure I skipped because both of these books were on my list of books I wanted to read. So I didn't want to hear a single word about the book. I didn't want to even know the synopsis. Don't tell me anything about the book. So that's just the type of watcher I am. Yeah. So I'm kind of bummed now that we're at this part where nothing's really as eerie and creepy anymore. Like, I'm still finding things to underline and stuff, but definitely not as much as for sure the first 2 parts. The first 2 parts were bangers. Part 3, we'll see. Oh my god, I just finished Blood on Her Tongue. Unfortunately, the sentiment I expressed earlier about how part 3 kind of now felt lackluster just carried on throughout the rest of the book. I will say it picked up like a little bit towards the end. I was like, ooh, are we like getting somewhere with this? It was getting a little gory, a little gruesome, and then all of a sudden it was just like, and I don't know, it just ended weird. I think what was interesting is that predominantly part 1 and part 2 were in our main character Lucy's internal monologue, like her thought process of everything. It felt more eerie and more ethereal, but also like gruesome, and there was this underlining sinister tone, and it was so awesome. But then But then the chapter right before part 3 happens, and then all throughout part 3, it's a lot more dialogue and communicating with other people and a lot less of that internal tone. And so it like the tone shifted so drastically that it was weird. It was weird. Like, I don't know why my brain is going to this, but part 1 and part 2 was a creepy, eerie, gothic horror novel. And then part 3 was like a kitschy camp horror novel, if that makes sense. It was such a weird shift in tone and direction that, yeah, it like, I ended up not really loving it. I still rated it really high because, again, like the first 2 parts were so good, but that final part just kind of like was a drastic decline. I gave it a 4.25. I ran it through my little rating tracker, and I was just like, okay, I'm good with a 4.25. This doesn't feel like a 3-star book to me because I enjoyed the first 2 parts so much. Go into this book cautiously. Like, if you're really enjoying the vibes and the energy of part 1 and part 2,
Just be weary.
Can you guys see Jinkies in the background? I may or may not have intentionally moved myself just so you guys can see her. We will be tackling What Hunger by Catherine Dang. And let me tell you guys what Miss Catherine Dang has in store for us today. It's the summer before high school, and Ronnie Wen finds herself too young for work, too old for cartoons. Her days are spent in a small backyard, dozing off to trashy magazines on a plastic lawn chair. In stark contrast stands her brother, Tommy, the pride and joy of their immigrant parents, a popular honor student destined to be the first in the family to attend college. The thought of Tommy leaving for school fills Ronnie with dread as she contemplates the quiet house she will be left alone in with her parents, May and Ba. Her parents rarely speak of their past in Vietnam, except through the lens of food. The family's meals are a tapestry of cultural memory. Thick spring rolls with slim and salty nem toa, and steaming bowls of pho thai with thin, delicate slices of blood-red beef. In the afternoon of the war, May and Ba taught Ronnie and Tommy that meat was a dangerous luxury, a symbol of survival that should never be taken for granted. But when tragedy strikes, Ronnie's world is upended, and her understanding of her family are shattered. A few nights later, at Ronnie's first high school party, a boy crosses the line and she is overtaken by a force larger than herself. This newfound power comes with an insatiable hunger for raw meat, a craving that is both a saving grace and a potential destroyer. What Hunger is a visceral, emotional journey through the bursts and pitfalls of female rage. Ronnie's Vietnamese lineage and her mother's emotional memory play a crucial role in this tender ode to generational trauma and mother-daughter bonding.
Viewer discretion is advised. This video does contain spoilers.
I am so deeply intrigued. Also, if you don't get a visceral reaction to this cover, I don't know what to tell you. This is wild. Wild. You just look at that cover and you're drawn to it. Let's hop into What Hunger by Catherine Dang.
Simon and Hunger, a novel. Read by Dee Nguyen. In my eyes, I just think you're nervous about tomorrow. Some of it heady. When one scent ended, and I pinched my nose shut with one hand.
That was so rude. That was so rude. I'm like 3-4 chapters in. I don't think I'm gonna cry anymore. Y'all. A majority of the synopsis has already happened, but then it also mentioned Ronnie going to a party and something happening. That hasn't happened, but everything else has happened. And I don't want to say what just happened, but it's so sad. It's so sad.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Up until literally this point, I was all like, how is this in the horror arena? But we just got a little sprinkle, a little taste test of what is to come. I'm intrigued to see where this is going. I will say this kind of feels like the eyes are the best part. Like the voice of it sounds very familiar. But one thing I will say is the eyes are the best part. There was always kind of that like weird, grotesque narrative, specifically obviously around eyes. Just right from the rip, you were introduced to like eyeballs and that interaction with the eyes are the best part. So you had that more grotesque horror element to it, but this one's definitely, I think it's gonna ease us into it. Also, I'm still upset. I'm so upset. It is interesting though, seeing like the conflict in the family. Ronnie, she had like these smut books pretty much, and Tommy was giving her crap, being all like, oh, Cormac McCarthy, blah, 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 going on some rant about how phenomenal he is. And Ronnie's like, yeah, okay, I'm just not gonna let you see my smut books anymore. The thing is, they have such a beautiful relationship, them as siblings. Like, their banter is top tier. You can just tell that they absolutely love and adore each other and they would do anything for each other. Tommy, him and his dad butt heads so ferociously, and I think it's because his parents are from Vietnam. They came from Vietnam due to the war. His father has certain values and like a life perspective that
Tommy doesn't have. And then also the parents never really told them anything about what happened in Vietnam and like that life. And so they don't really have any insight into why his parents feel and think a certain way. Tommy is very much all like communism bad, da 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 da. He's just going off, and he has a very headstrong opinion on how the world works, and his dad's just like, what the are you talking about? So it's interesting to see that dynamic between them. They were arguing, and the dad almost made it sound like he was disappointed in his son, even though like theoretically Tommy should be like the golden child, because he's like great grades, going to Harvard, making a life for himself. He's like that stereotypical golden child, but they're almost more like, he's such a... The dad in particular is like, he's such a pain. And at one point the mom was all like, he's gonna be going to school in the fall, just like deal with it for the summer. It was pretty much what she was telling him. So it's just interesting to see that dynamic of like this golden child isn't really the golden child in the eyes of the family. And like this more creative, not really bookish young girl, I don't know, it's like she's perceived at a higher pedestal than the son. The dad is definitely more like that strong, combative character, and the mom is definitely like the nurturer who, you know, tries to make peace. She's like the peacemaker of the family, but she kind of like tries to make the peace after the explosion. She doesn't really interfere while the explosion is happening.
Y'all, I feel very conflicted right now because a part of me is like, cannot tell you the big event that happened. It's a big spoiler, but then at the same time, this is like the crux of this entire story. Like this entire story revolves around this key event. And I feel like I'm spending too much brain power talking around this key event than actually properly explaining what's going on and my thoughts, feelings, and opinions. I am going to tell you what happens in chapter 3. Tommy dies. Tommy and the dad got in a huge fight the morning that he died. And on his way home from work, he like was cooling off a little bit, and he got hit in a T-bone car accident and died. The part that made me cry, when the dad came home from work, he came home specifically with the type of banh mi that Tommy liked. And he got it from the fancy, expensive place. And it was kind of like obviously his apology. But then Tommy didn't come home on time. He was running late. And when the cops were telling them about the accident, about Tommy passing, they had mentioned that Tommy had a bag of snacks. And in the bag of snacks was hot Cheetos, pop, and Almond Joys. And Almond Joys were his dad's favorite. No one else liked Almond Joys, but his dad loved Almond Joys. What do you mean? Oh, it wrecked me. It wrecked me. Why is it always the hot, cute, older brother that has to die? Always. Big Hero 6, hot older brother Takashi dies. Oh my god, is that his name? Did I remember that correctly? It's so unfair. It's so unfair. I had to tell you guys what happened, because literally this whole story kind of revolves around like the family mourning obviously that loss in their family. Okay, anyways, I'm gonna continue on with this story and just be sad and depressed that the hot older brother died. He had such a lovely relationship with Ronnie. It's just, life's not fair. This sucks. What do you mean? Hell no. How do you know I'm safe? He knows. Did you drink a beer last night? Listen. Do I understand all of the circumstances that Ronnie is currently going through? Absolutely. Do I understand that she's literally a 14-year-old girl? Absolutely. Do I understand that her thought process would have been probably my exact same thought process when I was also 14? Absolutely.
But she's getting a little annoying. Just a little annoying. She's definitely trying to, like, rebel. She had something traumatizing happen to her twice in 1 year. I'm also interested to see where this is going because it is very much feeling like the eyes are the best part. So she goes to this party, gets a little drunk. Dude tries to force himself on her, and something happened. Honestly, though, what did end up happening wasn't my initial thought. Like, it was still terrible and horrifying and gave her a taste for something a little different. But let's just say I thought she, like, bit off a chunk of his cheek. That's not what happened. That's where my brain initially went. I'm like, oh my god, she's just biting down like a crazy woman. Obviously, she's trying to get out of this horrifying situation. And I was just all like, oh my god. She, like, bit off a part of his cheek, which he deserves. But also at the same time, that in my brain, I was still, I was just like, nope, It's interesting to go from blood on her tongue, which had a very, like, old-timey gothic feel, where this woman was straight up eating people, to this, where the girl bites something off of a dude. And I have a feeling it's going to go down the route of her actually eating people. But I did have to, like, take a second away from it, because she was starting to really annoy me. Again, I understand she's an angsty teenage girl who just lost her brother, had some dude try to rape her. That doesn't mean that people can't be insufferable. Can I be honest with y'all? It's the next day, the next morning, and I don't know what it is, but for some reason I have, like, no desire to return back to the book. I don't know if I'm just, like, not in the mood for horror. I don't know if I'm just not in the mood for this particular book. A part of me is thinking that I might, unfortunately, it might be that I'm not in the mood for horror because it's the week of Thanksgiving. I'm in that house. That's where my brain is in that house of, like, the fun, festive holiday stuff. It's not in it right now, and I need to get in it. So, we're a little further into what hunger.
But my teeth only sank deeper into his neck. I realized he'd slumped back in his seat.
No, but yes. Yes, but no. No, but yes. Ronnie, she was about to do something I think she would have regretted. I'm actually intrigued to see if she still follows through on the plan, because he low-key deserves it, but also I'm concerned about the well-being of Ronnie if she follows through on this plan. However, during her time to put this plan into motion, she may have been a little stupid girl. Was doing some hitchhiking. Not intentionally, I don't think, but she still did it nonetheless. The guy was a classic cliche and decided to have his way with her, or at least try. But Ronnie was like, oh no. No. She has a sudden craving for meat. Raw meat. And yeah, we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens.
His breathing was heavy, and his chest rose up and down. He made like the way my head brushed against his, burying into the side of his neck. The iron aroma of blood lingered in the air. I wanted to eat. Then I wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. I took a long, deep bite. Before I go away, my body seemed to be breaking open, and I was leaking between, lined with teeth marks. The human body didn't need to see, though. Are you okay? I said mechanically.
Are you
The man cried out, his
okay?
voice higher than any note lessened to a
Bitch,
trickle.
you were just
The man rolled
eating.
forward. The car sped backward and zipped away into the night.
Are you okay? How sinister, young girl. How sinister. She's 14, right? Initially, it didn't register in my head that she's, like, getting her period and she's starting her menstruation cycle for the first time. And I'm like, I wonder if her mom ever explained that process to her, or if anyone did, because she's definitely explaining a period. But she seems so completely unknowing of what her body is actually doing currently. So yeah, it's just interesting. And also, I'm just so intrigued why, in conjunction with her period, she all of a sudden is, like, being a cannibal. Like, 60 more pages. I'm intrigued to see where we go. Well, that was quite the experience with What Hunger by Catherine Deng. The twist at the end, I never saw coming. I just didn't see it coming.
This entire time, so the synopsis is pretty much telling you this is like coming of age, feminine rage, mother-daughter bonding, whatever, you know, all that jazz. And the entire time I was like, I don't understand the bonding that's going to happen with the mom and Veronica. It happens within like the last 3 chapters. So I don't know if I love that. But also at the same time, I don't know where else you would have put that for it to have as much impact as it did. The pacing of it was kind of perfect. It just was so sudden. But I loved what happened in like that last little chapter. I loved it so, it was just like, ooh. Like I also kind of feel bad though, but I also love it. Have you guys ever read something like that where you're like, I hate this, but I love it? However, what I will say is after reading this and after reading Blood on Her Tongue, I don't necessarily know if I want to read The Lamb, because I'm pretty sure The Lamb is about consuming humans. And I've just had enough. I've had enough of people being bitten. Let's hop into our next read.
I've decided to enjoy what little we have left of outdoor time because it's supposed to not rain. It's currently raining. It's supposed to snow tomorrow, and then it's supposed to snow all weekend. I have put the books that I am interested in reading on a little wheel doodad, right, Schmear? We're just gonna let the wheel pick. We're gonna let the wheel pick. I did put, though, the rub 2 brain cells together option on here, just so, you know, I'm not completely leaving it up to chance. So, without further ado, let's spin. I don't even know what I would want to read. You weren't meant to be human. Interesting. I'm pretty sure this is about aliens, but let's go grab the book and read the synopsis together, shall we?
You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Festering masses of worms and flies have taken root in dark corners across Appalachia. In exchange for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, these hives offer a few struggling humans salvation. A fresh start. It's an offer that none refuse. Crane is grateful. Among his hive's followers, Crane has found a chance to transition, to never speak again, to live a life that won't destroy him. He even met Levi, a handsome ex-Marine and brutal killer who treats him like a real man, mostly. But when Levi gets Crane pregnant, and the hive demands the child's birth, no matter the cost, Crane's desperation to make it stop will drive the community that saved him into a devastating spiral that can only end in blood. You Weren't Meant to Be Human is a deeply personal horror, a visceral statement about the lives of marginalized people in a hostile world. You know, reading that synopsis about the book, I'm not as excited. I don't know. We'll see though. Okay, I have made the unfortunate decision to DNF. You Weren't Meant to Be Human. I truly thought I was going to have a blast and a half with this book. When it said it was Alien meets Midsummer, I was like, ooh, interesting. I will acknowledge, though, that I am DNFing it pretty early on. I'm just shy of 30 pages into the book, and I'm just not, like, vibing with the storytelling. It's in this really weird third person where it's not like normal third person where you're being told the story just in general by an ominous narrator. Third person from the perspective of Crane, who's kind of like the main character as far as we can tell. It's as if Crane is speaking in the third person. Does that make sense? If Kayla was to be sitting here telling you about this book, Kayla would say that this book has a really weird storytelling style. And Kayla just wasn't really vibing with it. Also, the way it just kind of like launches you into the story, I feel like some books can do that really well, where you're kind of like just thrusted into a story and you just gotta like pick up the beats as you go. But literally with this one, it's almost as if you're expected
to read the synopsis of the book to kind of have a general understanding about the book. I don't know about you, there are actually a handful of books where I just go off the vibes and I'm like, I don't want to read the synopsis of this. Something about this book makes me feel like I should just dive into it with no thoughts, brain empty. If I had gone into this book, no thoughts, brain empty, I would be even more frustrated and confused by where this story is going. I'm just deciding to DNF it, which is such a bummer because my reaction to this book, I was so excited. I was so hyped. I was like, yes, bring it on. I don't know. It could be an absolutely phenomenal, amazing book, and maybe I'm just not in the mood to read it. Or it could be that it's just weird. If you've read this book, let me know in the comments down below, like, what your thoughts, feelings, opinions about this book were. I have made the unfortunate decision to part ways with When the Wolf Comes Home. But I made it to chapter 6, so really 35 pages into the book. I was feeling kind of iffy about it at chapter 4. I'm not sure if I'm vibing with this writing style. And then chapter 5 happened. Chapter 5 was pretty intense, pretty wild, pretty crazy. A lot of stuff was going on. A lot of brutality was going on. The author chose to use, listen, I like to think myself a decently educated human being that has a fairly wide vocabulary, but there was a word that he used during a high intense situation, and it was a word I've never seen before a day in my life. I've never even seen it. There's one thing to, like, you know, be like, oh yeah, I think I know what that word is, but to never have seen a word before, I should have jotted down what word it was. I don't want to be in a high intense situation that seems stressful and bloody and cruel, and then be like, oh wait, let me quickly grab my dictionary to figure out what this word is. I don't know if that's a common occurrence in the book, but I'm not gonna dabble. I'm not gonna dabble with this for now. I might return to it because I know a lot of people do appreciate and enjoy not only this book, but Nat Cassidy's writing in general. To be frank, even the synopsis of this book never really intrigued me. It was more like the interest that other people had in this book where I was like, oh, maybe I should give this a whirl. Long story short, I'm setting this one down. Long story short, I picked up Breathe In, Bleed Out yesterday. I am 38 pages into the book. This one I'm digging. I'm not gonna lie, I went into this book, I didn't read the synopsis, didn't read the summary. Actually, I probably did. I don't remember the synopsis or summary at all. And I wanna kind of tell you what's going on, but I also don't want to tell you what's going on because chapter 1 in and of itself was like, you know you're in for a ride. I am so excited to see where this book goes. What I can tell you, I'm not going to tell you like the full backstory, but what I can tell you as like the general hovering storyline as of right now is we have our main character, Hannah. Her friend's name is Tess. It's Hannah's birthday, and Tess is like, homegirl, let's get out, let's go do something. It doesn't have to be anything wild or crazy. We're just gonna go to this exclusive, you never even heard about it before, retreat with all our friends. And Hannah at first is like, I don't know. She's kind of become like a little hermit, you know, she sticks to what she does and that's what she does. But Tess is like, nah, girl, you need to at least get out and like hang out with friends. You don't have to hang out with a bunch of strangers, just hang out with your friends. They're gonna be going to very exclusive resort, and just based on how chapter 1 happened, oh my God, the shit that's gonna happen at this resort, I can already see it. But then at the same time, I'm like, this is gonna take some wild twists and turns. I just know it. Oh yes.
So excited. Okay, first and foremost, really enjoying Breathe In, Bleed Out. But I have like the smallest bone to pick with the sequence of events that occurred in this book recently. So I literally Googled who Brian Macaulay is because I was like, I need a little bit more insight into who this guy is, because I don't know if this is him just not knowing, just assuming. It's not wide knowledge. No Joe Schmo off the street is gonna know this, okay? But it like, because I do know it, I was like, that's not possible. No, this is based in California. They're heading out towards Joshua Tree. Where they're from, they're in LA. They are driving into Joshua Tree, and then past Joshua Tree is 29 Palms. Now, 29 Palms is kind of like two separate things. There's 29 Palms, the town, and then there's 29 Palms, the Marine Corps base. A Marine was at a bar that these guys walked into, and he was in uniform. I do not believe that a Marine from 29 Palms, which is out in the desert, is going to be in their uniform, because the only uniform they could be in is their dress uniforms, which could be their Alphas, their Charlies, their Deltas. Like, there's a whole slew of dress uniforms, but it's the nicer ones, you know? Now, it was never alluded to what uniform this dude was in, but if he's chilling in kind of like a dingy little dive bar, I'm assuming he's probably gonna be in his camis, and you can't be off base in those. There are very few circumstances where you are allowed to be off base in your camis. When you're traveling home, you may be allotted the ability to travel in your camis. Outside of that, you're not allowed to be in your camis, not full camis. You might see recruiters out and about in town, but they are almost always going to be in their cami bottoms, so their trousers, and a skivvy shirt, so a PT shirt. But you're not going to be seeing just any Joe Schmo Marine out in the world in their camis. So if you if you ever see a military personnel wearing camis out and about, 9 times out of 10, they will not be a Marine. They're going to probably be Air Force or Army. So that, I was like, I doubt it. And then they're leaving the bar. They had a little scuffle with the Marine in the bar. So I think the reason the Marine was inserted was just kind of be this like macho military dude to kind of like have a little tiff with Jared, who is like the beefy frat dude bro of the group. It's noted that the Marine, he leaves after a little scuffle. But when the group is leaving, they walk out and he's leaning against his Humvee. When I tell you, no Joe Schmo Marine is just gonna be whipping around in a Humvee. If you don't know what a Humvee is, it's literally a military vehicle. It's not a tank, but it's like the closest thing you can get to like a civilian tank. You are not gonna just see a Joe Schmo driving a Humvee around. Humvees will be on convoys, so if you see like a convoy around, it's gonna be a shit ton of Humvees driving down the strip. And you will see that in California, because you'll see people going from place to place, usually on training operations and stuff. So you'll see Humvees driving down, but it's not just gonna be like one singular Humvee pulled up next to the side of a bar. And again, this is so nitpicky, but I was just like, no. No, that's not gonna be a thing. And I forgot to mention, the reason I have this insight is because I was in the Marines. So I'm just like very particular when they get these types of things wrong. He's not going to be whipping around in a Humvee in his dress uniform. So he 110% was more than likely in camis, which you wouldn't see out and about in town, unless he's fond of breaking the rules. That's my one gripe about this book. Otherwise, I'm having a blast. There is a theme with pickaxes, and I'm terrified to know what happens. There's also this one little phrase that I feel like is going to come back. So they're in Joshua Tree heading to this retreat, and the Barlow Boys, which was a gang out west back in the Dizzle, they're referenced here kind of as like a legend figure, But one of the things like this old dude in like just an antiquities shop says to our main character, Hannah, he's like, now that story is too grim for a nice lady such as yourself. But my grandpappy used to sing a rhyme. Just something the old timers would say to keep kids from playing out in those dangerous mines. In the dark a dead man's due, Waylon Barlow waits for you. He'll hack you up without a trace, pick your bones and steal your face. Oh, I have a feeling. I have a feeling the reason they were talking about Dead Man's Due is because this retreat they're going to is on Dead Man's Due Road. Oh, it's coming back, baby. It's gonna come back and its faces are getting snatched. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no, no, no. Oh no. Oh no. We need to talk, y'all. The Marine is back. Hello, hello. I know I'm in your territory now. I was really hoping he wouldn't be back because we have so many inaccuracies again, and we're only a page in with him. Welcome to my Marine Corps TED Talk. I wasn't expecting to give this to anyone. You probably weren't expecting to get this. Lance Criminal Dennings. Just kidding. He's a Lance Corporal. But apparently, he's a Lance Corporal, and he's been in the Marines for 4 years, 7 months, and 28 days, which, if you don't know, means he's already done a re-enlistment. Once you pass that 4-year mark, unless you have some sort of crazy contract in place, you're doing your re-enlistment process. He's not going to be a Lance Corporal. He's not. At 4 years, pretty much every single MOS, you will at least be a corporal by 4 years in. And for anyone who doesn't know, here's the ranking structure. You have E1, which is a private. You have E2, which is a private first class. You have E3, which is a Lance Corporal. Most people leave boot camp as an E1, okay? But then right after boot camp, you go to Marine combat training. 90% of the time, you're still going to be an E1. PFC, pretty much you either get it out of boot camp for some reason or another, or I don't remember the exact time marker, but pretty much once you've been in the Marine Corps for like a certain period of time, pretty much everyone is guaranteed PFC. Next, Lance Criminal. Editing Kayla here. I'm about to go on a long ass tangent that we don't really need to go on. So to make a long story short, you get promoted to Lance Corporal 8 months after being PFC. Anyways, and that's assuming you're active duty. If you're reserve, it's a little different. And then after Lance Corporal is Corporal. And again, most people will hit, I would say Corporal by like their 3-year mark, roughly is when you start to hit that. But very rarely can you re-enlist, meaning you're continuing your service beyond your initial contract term as a Lance Corporal, because it's like, why are you a benefit to the Marine Corps? Well, of course, they want bodies. They want productive bodies. And if you're still a Lance Corporal by 4 years and 7 months, it's either you haven't picked up Corporal or you picked up Corporal and then you got Ninja Punched, which is an NJP, which is a non-judicial punishment, meaning you did something to get your rank reduced. That's qualm number 1. Qualm number 2, this is so nitpicky, but if you're gonna use a topic, do some research. Boot camp was a nightmare and his fellow trainees treated him worse than his online campaign partners did. A Marine would not refer to other people in boot camp as trainees. You're all recruits. You literally refer to yourself as recruit. We'll insert last name here. You don't even call yourself me or I when you're in boot camp. You say this recruit. You would never use the term trainee. You're all recruits in boot camp. If you're gonna use this phrase of like boot camp was a nightmare and his fellow recruits treated him worse than his online campaign partners did. So nitpicky. Most people probably aren't going to notice that, but I can guarantee you every single Marine who read this page right here, page 1 of chapter 10, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Next, he got placed at the advanced training base in Joshua Tree. I could be wrong. I don't believe there is an MOS school in Joshua Tree proper. There is an MOS school in 29 Palms, but again, as we discussed earlier, 29 Palms and Joshua Tree,
are two different entities. Also, the MOS schools that are in 29 Palms, I know for sure that the radio people, are the only ones who do training at 29 Palms. And also, I'm pretty sure Lance Corporal Dennings is going to be our bad guy. Literally, the chapter starts with, Lance Corporal Dennings waits until dark to execute his mission. He's either going to be a buffoon. I think he's going to be a buffoon. I hate this though. His Xbox trigger finger was itching to mow down a flesh and blood enemy with a wide array of weaponry. That's so cliche. I can guarantee you that every single one of the Marines that I knew that played video games were like the biggest nerds and didn't have some wild, crazy trigger finger. Please know that's not a thing. If you read this book and you think that Marines are anything like this, there might be like a handful, sure, but a handful. I hope we get rid of Dennings soon so that I can stop complaining about shit like this. This can ruin a book for someone, you know? The inaccuracies. It's not that hard to like just do some Googling. Other than that, I'm really enjoying this book. Okay, y'all, as you can see on my screen here, I did some researching because I didn't want to be the dumbass who was saying things incorrectly. It's been a decade since I was last in 29 Palms, so give me some grace here. Also, I was stationed on Camp Pendleton, which is on the coast. I only went to 29 Palms, I think twice, maybe 3 times. With that noted, again, there is no MOS school in Joshua Tree. You would, if you're a Marine, you're saying you're going to MOS school in 29 Palms. And again, it is the exact school I thought it was. Comms, communication. Comms is a wider swath than just like the radio people, but they're the radio people, pretty much. And they're the only ones who have their schooling in 29 Palms. So this Lance criminal, Dennings, is acting like such a hard ass when he's just comms. I was a keyboard warrior. I was in finance. But all I'm saying is there's more hard ass jobs in the Marines that aren't requiring you to be a grunt either. You're not infantry. Like there's infantry, which everyone is like, oh yeah, that's the down and dirty MOS. But there are more badass ones, honestly. I am just about halfway through the book now, but the crazy thing is like the book, I don't know what part of me is like, okay, it's kind of getting slow, but it's not getting slow, but it feels like it's getting slow. I don't know how I feel about it. Our main character just got attacked, but also she was on hallucinogenics when she got attacked. So people are like, did you really get attacked or were you just having a hallucination? And like, they're out in the desert, so like maybe she tripped, fell, scratched herself up against rocks. She thought she was being attacked and chased, so like, you know, she was just out of it, right? She got all scratched up that way. But like we as the audience know, no. There's definitely something out there. My question is, who's the killer? I wrote down Kimmy as a possible. Have I even told you guys who these characters are? Well, let me rewind and freeze and tell you who our characters are. Okay, so we have Lance Criminal Dennings. He was the Marine that I kept ranting about. Then we have Hannah, who's our main character. She's the one who had a fiance and he literally died. And she was there when he died. And we don't quite know what happened, like how he died, like what that situation is. She just keeps alluding to like how she has survivor's guilt and how she keeps seeing him. Okay, then we have Tess, who is Hannah's best friend. And Hannah, after Ben died, decided to... Oh, Ben was her fiance. Tess is Hannah's bestie. Since Ben's death, Hannah's kind of like secluded herself. And so Tess is the one who like finally convinced her, hey, get out.
have a life. Then we have Luna, who is like the yoga girly of the friend group. We have Jared, who is like the buff frat bro of the friend group, and he's with Luna. They're a couple. Then we have Miles, who is a DJ, and Miles and Hannah back in college had like a flirtationship, but it never went past like they held hands. Then we have Kimmy, who is at the retreat, and she is one of the employees. There's, as far as I can tell, there's only 2 employees. So there's Kimmy, and then there's Guru Pax, and Guru Pax is like the head honcho of the retreat. Then we also have Dr. Grady, who is Hannah's therapist. So that's kind of like the cast of characters of this book. We have our 5 friend group, then 2 employees of the retreat. So for like potential killer suspects, I wrote down Kimmy initially. Something about her, I don't know. We'll see. I don't think it's Guru Pax. I don't think he's the guy. I also at one point wrote down Dr. Grady, who is Hannah's therapist guy. But yeah, now that we have our cast of characters out of the way, I'm intrigued. I will be reading this, but I'm just at the point where I'm like, I'm a little bored. Some things are getting a little redundant and repetitive. Y'all, it has been so long since I started filming this video that I quite frankly don't even remember what books we read. But I just finished Breathe In, Bleed Out, and oh my goodness gracious, this was like so close to being a 5-star. But towards the end, Hannah, she got just a little irksome. Just a little. And a part of me is like, Kayla, she's literally having like a mental breakdown. She can't even trust her own brain currently. So, of course, she may or may not be getting just a little obnoxious. But I'm just like, some of the decisions she was making towards the end, I just couldn't. So I'm going to give this book a 4.75. I truly did have such a great time with it up until I would say probably like the last 3 chapters are really good. There was just probably like 2-3 chapters before the last, I can't know. What are words? Anyways, there was just like this really small section where I was like, I cannot stand you. You are being so ridiculous. But then again, she was having a mental breakdown. She couldn't trust her own brain. So I do understand that contextually, but still my perception of her, I was really annoyed. I'm not gonna lie. Like throughout the entire book, I was trying to figure out who the killer is because that's just my nature, is to want to figure out who, like what is the mystery. I want the answers. And so the entire time I was reading the book, I was jotting down potential suspects. I did know in the back of my head, I wrote this person's name down for who the killer was. However, their reasoning was wild. Didn't see it coming. I mean, I could have seen it coming, but it wasn't the obvious choice, but it was a choice. But yeah, really great time with this book. Overall, I would say like the biggest disappointment from this entire reading vlog had to have been When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. I think so many people love that book so much. Like so many people love that book. And I feel like the only person who doesn't. And again, I did DNF it fairly early on. I think I got like 30 to 50 pages into it. Yeah, I was just like, why? It was so because it was gruesome. It was really gruesome. It has some pretty great gruesome parts. And I was like, I see the potential, but I was so frustrated with the use of vocabulary. And maybe that just means that I need to expand my vocabulary. But again, when you're in like a high stakes, intense situation where your adrenaline is pumping and you're like, oh my God, are they going to get out of this situation alive? I don't want to be faced with a word that is so egregious. Like, who knows this? I wish I had jotted down what the word was. But it was literally like, I have never seen this word a day in my life. Not once. Ever. And I like to think I have a
fairly decent vocabulary. That was a disappointment. I was also kind of disappointed with, it was by Andrew Joseph White. I've been seeing so many people talking about that book, loving it, but I was just like, I cannot get behind this weird hive mentality. I don't know. I just didn't like the storytelling. It was very bizarre. I would have to say, I think this was my favorite. Editing Kayla might pop in and tell you otherwise, but this is such a good time. Literally, like, so close to being a 5-star. But there were just like a couple of things. Oh, and also like the whole inaccuracies with the Marine guy. But I did like the outcome of his story. If you've read this book, you'd probably be like, what the fuck? But yeah, I did like how that one turned around. I had a good time with it. But yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you enjoyed this reading vlog. I know it initially started out as like the GoodReads reading vlog, but honestly, I'm just gonna probably title this like the best horror of 2025. And the funny thing is I didn't even read like the top 10 nominees or whatever. Or maybe it was the top 5 nominees I didn't even touch, but I did have a good time with the ones I did pick up. Again, even the ones I DNF'd, they open my eyes to what I do and don't like when it comes to horror. And if a dictionary is required, I don't mind having to use a dictionary, just not during a high stakes scene. You know what I mean? Anyways, y'all, thank you again so much for hanging out with me. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.